Jasper spent years throwing punches in the cage, but his toughest fight has always been against himself. Through a childhood marked by instability, Jasper was constantly moving and having to start over, causing frustration and anger that had nowhere to go until he found martial arts. MMA gave him identity and purpose, so much so that he struggled to define himself as more than a fighter. Now he's building a life around his personal training business, teaching others how to defend themselves and showing that there's more to being a man than winning. This is Jasper Buck.
Welcome to Young Blood, the volunteer video podcast dedicated to young men's mental health. I'm your host, Cal McPherson, and this is a platform for young men and their loved ones to share lived experience stories and show that no matter what you're going through, you're not alone. Suicide is the number one killer of young people, and changing that starts with speaking up. So let's do it.
Jasper, a couple years ago, you reached out to me about the podcast, and now you're on the podcast.
It's crazy. Thanks for having me on, Cal.
What makes you want to share your story?
I remember I was sitting in the car not going to work. I was actually at work, and I was going through a bit of a tough time with kind of the direction I was headed in life. And a lot of the guys you had on the podcast, I just listened to their story and was like, you know what I'm going through isn't nearly as bad as some of the things that has happened to other people, but I've still had my own issues. Not so much with like big mental health problems and stuff, but small things with like identity and what I believe and what I feel is right for myself. And a lot of the stuff really resonated with me in terms of how you said a lot of young guys don't really want to speak about the problems that they're having. They just want to cop it and just go through it alone. And I've found since I've started coaching full time now that I've kind of become that person that people will come out and speak to me about the problems they're having. So I also want to let people know that I'm not perfect as well, and I have my own issues, if that makes sense.
Very well said, man. So let's go back to the beginning. Tell me about losing your brother.
My parents had me in 2000, and then we had my other brother Monty in 2002 when we were living in Hong Kong. And then mum and dad tried to have another kid, 2003, and about 3 or 4 hours after he was born, he passed away. And then that incident almost killed my mum as well. But my mum's a warrior, so she got through that, and she's super healthy now. So that was kind of the first, I don't remember it, but the first traumatic kind of thing that happened to me. And then it affected my parents a lot as well. They had another kid after Seaton he's 19 now. He's doing great. But yeah, I struggled as a kid because I moved around a lot. Like I was born in Japan, moved to Hong Kong, then I moved to America, back to Hong Kong. Then I was in Sydney, then I was in Singapore, and then I moved here to Melbourne. So kind of just packing up multiple times and starting life fresh over and over was probably like the biggest challenge I've had throughout my whole life. Starting new friendship groups, finding new mentors in every single place. That was probably the biggest struggle for me, and it forced me to, I would say, mature at quite a young age. But it also made me like a real angry kid. Like I didn't feel like I fit in when I would move to a new place. But it's everything, everything happens for a reason. So you can't be negative about it. Stuff happens, and all you can do is have a positive outlook on everything. You know what I mean?
For sure. How often were you moving around as a kid? Is that because your parents work?
Yeah. So my dad worked for the Australian Wheat Board, and then he worked for another company over in based kind of around in Singapore area. So he was traveling a bunch. So he decided to move to Singapore just because logistically it was better for us to move over there. But I reckon I moved every 2 to 3 years, and then I was in Sydney for 5 years, and then I was over in Singapore for 8 years.
What was the impact of that instability on you when you were a kid?
I just found that I had this kind of like a lone wolf mindset because I was so used to packing up and starting again, not too invested in friendships because either I was going to move or they were going to move. And that's kind of the nature of it, living over in a country like Hong Kong or Singapore or Japan. It forced me to be true to myself. It's just now as an adult, it's made me really put more time and energy into investing into those relationships with friends and mentors. Because a lot of them I know now as the adult, they're most likely going to stay long term. Especially my head coach, DC, like he's married, 2 kids, in his 40s, and like he's like one of my best mates. Like we'll go get dinner together, lunch together, um, and like I've invested my energy into good relationships like that, which has really helped me, not only in my career but also in my like how I view friendships and how I view a good man, if that makes sense.
And you're close with your brothers?
Yeah, I'm really close with my brothers now. We actually live together. It's it's
Nice
I wouldn't
clean
say it's a
house.
frat house. It's pretty clean. We're actually cleaning up this morning. Um, I moved back to Australia when I was 18, just after I finished year 12. And then my brother is a year below me in school, so they stayed back an extra year, and then so he could finish, and then they moved back to Australia. So there was that year where I didn't speak to them much. Like I don't know, for some reason I don't like using this too much. I'd rather have like a face-to-face interaction with someone than be on the phone all the time. And then my parents live out in regional Victoria, so my youngest brother was out there for another 2 years till he finished school. But since then, we've been living together for 2 years now, and we've all three of us been living together for a year. So it's been good. It's like having the boys all back together again. It's refreshing. We'll just say that.
What does that relationship do for you? Because not everyone's really close with their siblings. Boys, especially, just renowned for fighting with each other when they're kids. But it seems like through that instability that you would have supported each other, and the fact that you're
Yeah.
still that close now, that must be a pretty big advantage through life for you.
Yeah. So how I see it is we'll call each other out on things we're not doing well. Like if cause I run my own personal training business, if my brother sees me like slacking off, he'll call me out in a good way. He'd be like, "Bro, is everything good with the business? Like, what's going on? Is there anything I can do to help?" So he's like really good with that. And then he's started his own. It's like an all natural soap uh, brand kind of thing. It's called No Nasty Skincare. So everything's organic, super healthy for you. Um, and he needs like money to invest in that. So I'm trying to get some cash together to give to him to so he can start his business. And then he started an apprenticeship as well. So having each other's backs, like it's massive. I don't know what I'd be able to do without having the boys around.
That's nice, man. Sounds like you guys have a really good relationship. Did losing your brother when you were so young, did that impact your childhood?
I don't directly think it impacted me too much because I was so young, but I definitely think it impacted my parents a little bit, which then had like the trickle down effect on us. And then also my dad being away for work a lot, it made me kind of be almost like the dad while he's away. Like I'm the oldest, so look after my two younger brothers. Like they had no issues with bullying in school, so I'll make sure that's all good. But it made me, I would say, it made me an angry kid, which I think if I didn't get into fighting sports and martial arts, I would be in a very different place right now. So I'm grateful for that.
So when do
But
you
yeah,
remember first feeling that anger?
maybe 10, 11 years old, maybe even a bit younger, like 8 or 9. And then, yeah, I got into martial arts at 14, 15. So there's a couple years there. It was a bit rocky, but
What was your inner world like, would you say, like from when you were a kid, when you were feeling those feelings of anger and then starting martial arts? Like what was your sense of yourself?
once I got into martial arts, I really isolated myself. I felt like I had something to prove, not just to myself, but to everyone else, which I don't understand why. Still to this day, it's been like 10 years. And like I would sneak out of the house at like 15. Most people would do that to go and drink or go to their friend's place, but I would sneak out to go to the gym, and I would like stay out till like 2 o'clock in the morning to hit the heavy bag or go for a run. I remember getting caught by my mom, and she like freaked out. She's like, "What are you doing? You're out like partying with your friends or whatever." And I was like, "Mom, check my gym bag. It's like sweaty hand wraps, sweaty gloves." And that kind of was like the catalyst for me to like really change who I was hanging around with. I was hanging around with some people that I wouldn't say were just, it wasn't their fault, like they were bad influences, but like their parents weren't great. So then like maybe they neglect them. I don't know the ins and outs, but I get sucked down into like the drinking and partying route. And I was always the guy who'd like I'd send it too far a little bit. So I was like, I need to use martial arts to keep myself out of trouble. Um, and then since then, like I've been pretty good. I had a 2 year hiatus through COVID, like start of COVID, and then I was like, I really need to lock in. And then yeah, the rest is history. Like now it's my life. So I'm grateful for that. But I had to go through the tough times to get through, and come out on the other side a better man.
That's pretty rare though that a teenager's got that level of mental fortitude and dedication. And funny to be sneaking out just to go and train. I love that. That's
Yeah.
such a fighter's story. What do you put having that mindset down to?
As a kid, my whole identity was like, you got to win. You have to win. And looking back on that, it's such an unhealthy mindset because when you don't win, your mental health goes down. You're like, oh, I'm not as good as I think I am, or I'm not up to standard, or I'm below average. And that was kind of where it came from. I was just like, I have to be the best in whatever I do. And I had this like all or nothing mindset, which was like, yeah, if you're not training this much, you're gonna lose. And then when you do everything and you still lose, you're like, hold on, there's other things to this. Um, and then just seeing like elite athletes, like you look at guys like Floyd Mayweather, McGregor, Muhammad Ali, these guys like all workhorses, David Goggins, they just work, 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 and their results speak for themselves as well. So I was like, I want to be like that, but also have balance to my life as well. So now I've matured a little bit. I've got other things going for me that don't involve martial arts, which is great, but I still love it. So it's been a ride.
And when you didn't have the self-esteem and the confidence that you have now, and you mentioned not liking who you were, how did that blend into the way you approach martial arts, or did you use martial arts to try to change your own impression of yourself? Like what was going on with not liking who you were?
Moving around a lot and being an outsider. So your confidence is kind of like up and down, or a big up and then a massive drop off. I can see that with my youngest brother too. So I feel like a lot of young guys get into like martial arts for the wrong reasons, but a lot of the reasons guys get into martial arts, and I think all guys should do it, whether it's jiu-jitsu, judo, boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, whatever it is, they should do at least one, is to let them feel like weak initially, and then they slowly build up that confidence and the security as well. Like if I go out, say I've got a girlfriend or a wife or a daughter or a son, I know now I can protect them, so that confidence is there in that sense. But if I didn't have that, if there was something that happened, I'd be terrified. If there was like a confrontation or something. So now I think it was like a lot of guys do it for validation as well, to make them feel like a man, which I also I don't like that too much. It's about self development at the end of the day. Um, if your identity revolves around being this fighter or being this like athlete, it's almost a little. It goes into that almost. I hate using the term, but toxic masculinity. It's like if you don't do it, you're like a pussy, or you do this or you do that. So for me, it's like, how can I better myself through this martial arts space?
Hmm. Well, it's probably the most hyper masculine environment, at least in the
Yeah.
stereotypical sense. Literally getting in a cage and trying to beat another man with your bare hands is about as alpha dog as you
In
get.
underpants as well.
Yeah, 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 that's right. It gets a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah,
But yeah, I get what you're
yeah,
saying about motivation for wanting to do it. Like I did Krav Maga and Muay Thai Krav Maga for 5 years and Muay Thai for a year. Muay Thai is brutal, dude. Like respect
yeah.
to
It's
anyone
great. I
who,
love it.
to anyone who does that sport. But that was my motivation for it. Was I hated the fear and the feeling of like I wouldn't
Mm.
know how to do the basics of defending myself if it ever came to it. And I hated the idea of not being able to protect someone that I loved. So that was the reason that I did it for sure. When you were a teenager and you first got into it, was that because you felt like you needed to protect yourself?
My mum was training with this PT Raj, and then she got me doing a couple PTs with him after school, and he was the guy who owned the gym that I was sneaking out to. It was a 24/7 gym, and we started doing boxing PTs together, and then I just fell in love with it, and then I was like, I don't really like getting punched in the face, so I got into jiu-jitsu. And then I met my best mate now. He's living in Thailand now, like living the dream. So we started doing jiu-jitsu together, and then I moved to Australia and then got into Muay Thai with his sister's boyfriend. We're best mates too now. And then got back into jiu-jitsu. And then after a couple of years, my coach was like, "Do you want to have an MMA fight?" And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" And then that was kind of the start of the journey.
What happened to your anger that you were carrying?
All that anger disappeared because I would let it out in the gym in a healthy manner. But when I would lose fights, I would kind of beat myself up about it. But I did a lot of mental work outside of fighting, like by reading philosophy books like Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi, Sun Tzu, Art of War. Great books that train your mind because the mind's a muscle too. And I find a lot of guys isolate themselves or they don't reach out for help. It's important to just like accept what it is and really like listen to yourself and not carry like the burden of the failures you've had. Just be present because like I feel for me especially if I look in the past, like what happened yesterday or a year ago, like say I lost a fight a year ago and I'm still thinking about it, I'd be depressed. Or if say I got a fight coming up in a year or 8 weeks and I'm thinking about that, I get really anxious. So just staying present in the current moment.
Has fighting always felt like something that you can control?
It is like I find whether I'm doing like Muay Thai sparring, wrestling practice, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu sparring, or technique, no matter how bad my day's been, and like I'm a PT, you're a journalist, and you run the podcast, we both got stressful stuff going on. We can go in the gym together, train together, not necessarily beat each other up, but like
You beat me up.
train together, and every all the issues in life that's going on is gone for that hour, that 2 hours, and you're just forced to be present. If someone's on your back trying to strangle you, you're not worried about the argument you had in the middle of the day. You have to stay present, and it just allows you to not escape reality. It's kind of puts it in a negative frame point, but it just allows you to just forget about the problems and just be free for that time period. And that for me, it's like the best thing I've ever done for my mental health. 100%, no questions about it.
Were there times in there where you did feel lost or you did feel like you didn't know what you were going to do with life or didn't have the confidence that you'd be able to be the fighter that you want to be or be the man you'd want to be?
Ilya Tapore, he's got a quote. It's like the scars make the man, and I think because my mentality for a long time resolved around winning, I take the losses really hard, like really hard. I lost a super close split decision. I took it on. I think it was like 2.5 weeks notice. I thought I won the first 2 rounds. Is what it is. Judges gave it to the other guy, and then that kind of 6 months, 8 months, like I kind of spiraled out of control. Like drinking all the time, smoking weed all the time, just to kind of escape what I was feeling. And then I went to Thailand, and then I was like, you know what? Like, I'm good. Like, life's good. I'm on holiday right now, doing what I love. I train twice a day, hang out by the beach, train with some good people. Like, I sparred a glory world champion. I had no idea, and I could hold my own. So I was like, you know what? Like, you're doing this to yourself. Your identities revolve around winning. So when you don't win, you kind of get self-destructive, and I acknowledge that. And I acknowledge that if I didn't have like a fight or something to work towards, I get really self-destructive. But then I also realize that this isn't going to be around forever. I need to find other outlets that aren't physical, whether it's gym or combat sports training, to keep myself happy and healthy. So that whole last year, I bought a bookshelf, 3 full shelves of books that I've been reading. A lot of it's philosophy, a lot of it's autobiographies from elite athletes and business owners and books on business and stuff. So I found that really helped, and then just starting my own business as well was massive. I was working full time at a car dealership, hated my job. That's kind of why I was fighting. I was like, I need to like fight and like get to the UFC so I can like get out of this working this job. And I was like, there's an easier option, bro. Just like start your own business, work hard, chase your dream, and you have the freedom to do what you want. And I can jump on at 12:30 on a Friday afternoon and have a chat about mental health and talk talk to you and maybe help some other young guys that are going through a similar thing to me made a massive difference.
That's sick, dude. And you're obviously very self-aware. Think of the stereotypical fighter, and I think you look like one with that cut above your eye. And
Yeah,
you're
that's what, yeah.
yeah, you're a pretty tough looking unit, especially if you look at your Instagram. But
Yeah.
you're very well spoken. You're obviously quite clever, and then being able to create your own business, that's easier said than done as well. So you've got that
Mm,
entrepreneurial spirit. So you seem like quite a complete young man. And
I appreciate it. It means a lot.
you do seem like a fighter to me, though, in that you've got that confidence about you and that sort of calm about you, which for me would be the ultimate goal of becoming really capable in martial arts. It's just that
Mm,
calmness that you have to your personality and that self-assuredness and the maturity beyond your years in a way as well. And I definitely get that sense from you, albeit through a screen. So, how have you been able to start your own business and what is that?
like I said before, I was working in the car industry, doing marketing for a car dealership. I did that for about 2.5 years. So I learned some great skill. Like I've no uni degree or anything. I went for 6 months. I was like, this isn't for me. I learned some great marketing skills, and then I just used my Instagram to start like promoting combat sports training and weightlifting and trying to inspire people. I really started doing that through COVID. I remember I got a few messages from people like, "Bro, no one cares about your training. Like, just keep it to yourself and all that." And I'm like, "Bro, this isn't for me. This is say for you, you're having a shit day and you're really struggling to like, I don't want to go for a run. And you see me, you're like, have a positive day, guys. I'm out on a run. It's a nice day. And then you go and do that. And then maybe you put something online and then that inspires the next person. It's like a chain effect, like smiling at people. Um, and then I started PTing through my gym, like just a couple hours here and there. And I had this client who's a psychologist, and he's like, "Dude, you got to do this full time, man. Like, you're so much happier when you do this, and you're so passionate, and you're very, very knowledgeable, and you're a good coach." And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. And I remember he paid for 20 sessions up front, which was like $1,600, and that gave me like a little bit of a buffer. And then my old boss is good, man. I actually met him through jiu-jitsu as well. I had 130 hours of annual leave, so he paid me out for that, obviously. But he also is super passionate about fitness and health. He owns that business too, so he paid me out an extra 6 weeks of my salary to keep me on my feet while I was getting clients. And then I just hustled hard, like cut my expenses big time, promoted the business hard, got a website up and running, got a logo, business cards. Just walked into a gym, was like, "Do you need a PT?" They were like, "Yep." And it's just down the road from my house. So I've been there 4 months now, running it full time. So it's been a blessing. We've just started a running challenge as well down in Hawthorne, and 2XU is going to start kitting us out. So like everything's come good in the year and a half that we've been going for. But it was a rocky 6 months. I feel like you have to go through that struggle to come out the other side and understand what it is you have to do. And if you don't take the risk, it's like you get stuck in the cycle. You go to work Monday, you finish Friday, you go out with the boys on a Friday night or a Saturday night, drink, you go party, and then you hate yourself Sunday and you do it again Monday. And I couldn't live that life. I feel like everyone's capable of doing it too. It's just understanding what it is you need to do, having that sit down with yourself and thinking about like, what can I offer to society that makes me happy, that can also bring me money and provides fulfillment as well.
Oh yeah, man, that's inspired me.
Good.
That's wicked. I think that kind of spirit is really admirable, and then also executing. I think it's one thing to say you're going to do something, and then when it gets hard and you realize all the other elements to it that you hadn't thought about, that you have to do those as well. It can be really easy to fall into a slump or just go back to doing what you don't really want to do because it's safer and easier. So to
Mm,
actually make good on that and make it happen for yourself at a young age is really impressive. And it seems like you're in flow, like you're living the life that you want to be living. And I think that's what we're all aiming for. We'd all love that. We'd all love to do what we love for a living. So it's
mm.
so great when we see someone who's managed to make that happen. Have you still got dreams of getting to the UFC? Are you still looking to compete?
I'm keen to compete again. I've just got so many other things on my plate now. Like I have the time to train, so if opportunity comes up, I'm gonna take it. Um, like at the end of the day, it's God's plan. Like to get to the UFC. Like if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. I'm not hell bent on it anymore. When I was a kid, I was like, I'm gonna be in the UFC. I'm gonna be UFC champion. All this, and then as I've got older and matured, I feel like a lot of those guys are like they're a little bit gone in the head. Like before they even start fighting. Like there's no other option for them. They come from like look at the guys from Dagestan. They live in the mount. They grew up in the
Yeah, I wouldn't
mountains.
want to fight them
Yeah.
either.
When you see the shaved head and the beard with no mustache, you know it's a wrap. Um,
Yeah, and the black
like they
eyes
have
and the
nothing else.
ears.
Yeah, they have nothing else. But for me, like I came from a good family. Hurting people seems wrong. I've realized that as I've matured now. Obviously, self defense, different story. I do like to test myself. Like eventually, I want to open my own facility and teach kids and teach adults and have a competition team. Honestly, dude, I'm a better coach than I'm a fighter. Like I feel like I'm a nice guy. Like I don't like hurting people too much, but like I can teach people to be really mean. You know what I mean?
I love that, man. It's a really interesting dichotomy, isn't it? It's like
It is.
learning through being obsessed with fighting, which is essentially, yes, protecting yourself, but also damaging other people and coming to the
Yeah.
realization of hurting people is really bad and we shouldn't do it. It's
Yeah.
pretty fun. It's pretty funny.
It's
Well, it seems
right.
like it would be so from the outside looking in, you're like, what are you talking about? That's all you've ever done. But I suppose that's the art side of martial arts where
Yes,
it's
please.
really it's about the lifestyle and the confidence it gives you. And like you said, you used to be an angry little kid, and then you've grown into a peaceful man who understands more of what life's about and therefore is less keen to do massive damage to people, which I
Yeah.
think is probably a good thing, but it's interesting, isn't
It's very interesting as well. It's like it's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in a war. That stuck with me big time, and it's true. Like, it's better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. And it's it was hard to come to that realization, but also now like I'm present. If I feel like doing it and I want to do it, I can do it. It's just a big commitment. Like it's a it's a ruthless game. Like
it? The other
uh,
thing is like you're not winning fights right now. You're not competing. You're not progressing towards what used to be your ultimate goal. Yet you still feel like a winner,
yeah, I'm progressing to
which
other
you
goals now.
never did. And that's really what you're shooting for is being able to have that sense about yourself and have more to your life rather than just my entire identity and my self-esteem totally relies on whether or not I knock this guy out or I choke this guy out. Because that's a pretty
Mm,
fragile way of living, isn't it? Because it
it
doesn't matter
is.
how good you are at fighting, eventually you're going to lose. And then what do you have after that? So I think the fact that you've had experiences where you put all the eggs in one basket and all the weight on, like I have to be this champion. And if I don't prove myself every time, then I'm worthless. Through reading books and sounds like coaching younger people and seeing the positive impacts you can have on other people's lives, you've realized that that end result isn't actually the most important thing.
It's not at all. It's not. It's worthless at the end of the day. Everyone's a winner and everyone's a loser at some point in their life. But I like to think of masculinity as a man, what can I offer to other people that benefits society? That's how I view it. If your only way to benefit society is for them to turn on the television and you just beat the brakes off someone, you're not really offering much besides entertainment. But like for me now, like I coach 5-year-old kids, I coach adults, like I coach people with autism, I coach people with like bipolar disorder, like multiple like serious mental health conditions and like learning disorders and stuff. And I help them. They can protect themselves. Just like they're more vulnerable than me, but I can protect them, and I can if I especially when I'm with them. If I'm not with them, I'm teaching them skills that can potentially save their life as well. So I'm grateful for that, and it means a lot as well that they have the trust in me to do that. That's what makes me feel like a man now.
That's awesome, man. So that's your version of masculinity.
Absolutely.
what would you have used to have thought masculinity was when you thought you needed to be the champion?
Looking good with your shirt off, being strong, jack, tattoos, being able to fight, making money, driving Bugattis, all that kind of stuff. Like the high life, you know?
The Andrew Tate formula.
Yeah, literally. And that was before he was even around. Like I had no idea who that guy was till last year. My perspective on it's completely changed. And what people think I do is probably like toxic masculinity if they look at it like surface level. But when they actually dive deeper, they're like, wait, oh, this guy's actually like he reads and he like helps kids and he like helps people with like learning difficulties and stuff. Just because I have like my nose gets flattened and my ears are a bit damaged and I have a cut and all that stuff, tattoos, like that's just the outside, how people perceive you, surface level. Which I don't mind. They're gonna judge at the end of the day, so that's fine. But deep down
I'm
inside,
sure once people talk to you though, you probably get a lot from people saying, "Oh, I didn't expect you to have a
they
brain."
expect that. Yeah, they think I'm stupid. I remember I was talking to this girl the other day, and she was like, I was reading a book at this restaurant by myself, having dinner, doing some work as well. She's like, "You read?" I was like, "Yeah, why?" And she's like, "Oh, you don't look like you read." I was like, "Why is that?" She's like, "You got
Oh,
a very
dude, that's
vital look." And I was like, "Thank you." It's so random, but you know, like that is what it is. Like my choices have made my appearance to be like the ears and the nose and the cut and stuff, which is very rare. But at the same time, like when people dive deeper, they realize who you truly are, and it's up to them to judge at the end of the day. And you can just be a good person.
I think the
All you
cool
need.
thing is, dude, like you can be both.
Yeah,
You don't
correct.
have to fit neatly into one category. I think sometimes people who don't know you, they want to fit you into a neat little box because then they can feel like they can judge you or understand you or
Mm,
not have to think about it too much. And whenever people have a really diverse range to their personality and who they are, it can kind of unnerve people a bit because they can't quite put their finger on you. Because if you're a tough guy fighter, then you're supposed to just fit that stereotype. You're not supposed to
mm,
read books and be interested in philosophy and want to talk about your mental health. Like those things aren't supposed to go together. But says who? That's just bullshit stereotypes that we've been
100%.
conditioned with from movies and other cultural influences. But the fact is that doesn't have to be that way. And you can have all these different elements to who you are, and you can decide what your own version of masculinity is. And I like the way that you put it. I sort of see it the same way. It's like, well, what can I offer the world? Can I be a protector? Can I be a provider? Can I be a community member who adds value? What's going to deliver me that sense of purpose and make me
Mm,
feel like fulfilled and someone who's useful? And yeah, being the kind of person who cares about others and is able to offer something to more than just themselves, that gives you a feeling that just only caring about yourself and not much else would never deliver you.
yeah, never. It never would.
What does your mum think of the man that you are now? I bet she probably got a bit concerned along the way when you were in the cage and
Dude, you know what?
at
That's
various
crazy.
times.
Do you know what's crazy? My
What's
dad's the
that?
one sitting there like biting his nails, freaking out. He's
Uh,
like drinking beers and stuff, and my mom's like going nuts. I'll
oh,
try to
really?
find the photo. I'll send it to you when I find it. But it's me in my first fight, me cracking this dude with the left hand, and my mom's like dead in the back like this, and I'm like, yeah, sick. She loves
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah, but my mom loves it. My dad's
Oh,
like, oh,
wow.
if he did something else, but now I'm making heaps of progress in the industry and like helping people. So he's off my back. He actually loves it now. Like he wants some
Oh,
help
that's
with
wicked.
his strength training
That's
too. So
wicked.
it's good.
I
It's good.
love that from the hardcore mum. She
Yeah,
must be really proud of you, I reckon. That's so
yeah. Her
cool.
granddad was a boxer too. So I think it's like it's in her blood. Maybe I got it from my mom's side.
How would you coach your younger self now? Like if your 10-year-old angry you came in to be coached by
Like
you now.
I would work out what it is that's making them angry. Number one. And then I would reinforce good behavior and discipline and respect and loyalty on them, because that's like the foundations of a good person at the end of the day. Um, and I would just make them work hard. I wouldn't push them crazy hard because maybe they're not going to like it into like to the point where they want to compete or they just want to quit or they just want to do it for fun. I would make them work hard. understand what their goals are with it and what the struggles are, and then just check in with them. If I see that they're more angry or they're more sad, I'll just check in and be like, "What's going on?" See what's going on, because like maybe there's something going on at home or internally in their own head. I haven't had to deal with it yet, though. Surprisingly, I've had a few adults that I can tell a bit angry, but I just get them to control it. So like if we're doing striking, I'll get them to take the gloves off and then punch with no pads, no gloves, so they can't go hard. And then it forces them to learn the technique more efficiently and correctly. Um, and I just make sure they have that healthy outlet to get rid of that anger. Whether it's like 5 minutes at the end of the session, just to go balls to the wall on the heavy bag and just absolutely belt it. And then get them to make sure that they're doing mental training as well, not like some hardcore like Secret Service stuff, but read books. Think about what you're grateful for every day. Write down how you're feeling. That's all I would do, to be honest. It worked for me, and I think it would work for other people as well.
Where did you get those practices from? Like, did you get them from reading books and those books said, go and do this? Or how did you figure out that you should be doing those things for your mental health?
I remember my dad said to me once, he's like, "You're really negative. You should give someone 3 compliments. Like, give 3 people a compliment in every day." I was like, actually, I read that, so I started doing it. And then I was like, "What else can I do?" I was like, thought about it. I was like, what was I grateful for today? And then I had like I don't know where it is, but I have like this. I'll grab it now. One sec. I have this like thick journal here, and every page I just write the date and a couple of things I'm grateful for. That made me a lot more positive and have a better outlook on life.
How full is that journal, man? That's it's got some serious pages in it.
Yeah,
How long have
that's
you been doing it for?
4 years.
Oh wow. Okay.
That's my second one as well. It makes you more positive, more appreciative in life. And then reading books like have you read Ikigai? It's
Yeah.
like a Japanese that book.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. You've
Yeah,
found your
literally.
ikigai.
So anyone struggling with their purpose, I'll go read that book right now. And then just trying to be positive and think understanding what makes me get into that headspace where I'm like self-doubting or negative, going back to those positive habits, writing down what you're going to do, setting out and doing it, and making sure it's done.
And do you
Um,
find that I mean, obviously you've got two full books of it, but how good are you at actually practicing what you preach? Like you're doing what you love now, but you can't be up and about every single day. You must have times where you're just like, I don't,
yeah,
for whatever reason, I just don't feel up to it. Are you able to practice those habits when you're feeling like that? And
yeah,
do you have experience of them actually helping lift you out of those spaces?
absolutely. I found when I would do it at the start of the day, I'd just be like, "Oh, I'm grateful for this, and this," and it was like kind of half-assed, and that was when I was struggling. And it makes you reflect on the day and look for the positives, not the negatives in the day. Like, oh, this happened, this happened, this happened, and be sad sack about it. But just finding the positives in everything makes a big difference. As soon as you start looking at the negatives, that's when you like start doubting yourself. That's when you go to the bottle shop and you buy some beers, or you, depending on what your vice is, you'll find like maybe you go to the casino and spend money or something that isn't helping you achieve your goals or to improve your mental health as well.
And do you just go train like when you're feeling that itch?
I'll train more, but also like I'll acknowledge what it is, and then I'm not feeling it. I'll just read a book. That's fine. Read a book on philosophy. I found when I didn't have an outlet that wasn't training, I would train myself into the ground. I get sick all the time, injured. But yeah, if I'm feeling healthy and I'm fresh, not too tired, I have no dramas going to the gym at midnight. I go drive over to the gym, blast some music, hit the bag for an hour, do some shadow boxing or some weights, and then just come
Hmm.
home, shower, and sleep, and I feel great.
You don't have a girlfriend yet? Is that what you're telling me?
Nah. I did, I did, but like the fighting lifestyle is pretty. It's like a full time job outside of a full time job. So for
Not for
me now,
everyone.
yeah, I'm trying to become the man that someone would want to date. You know what I mean? Like there's things that I have now that I could improve on. So I'm waiting to improve on that before I commit or look to meet anyone. I find that like if I do start looking for a girlfriend now, I'll those bad habits might come back, or I'll stop doing the good things that got me to where I am now. So I'm content being single right now. No dramas with that. And who knows what the future holds? No dramas.
How old are you, man?
I'm 24.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you're 31-year-old elder.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that I'm very impressed with the mindset that you have and the energy that you exude. And I think
I
that
appreciate that. It means a lot.
what you're talking about is very much instilled in you.
Mm.
And you're obviously someone who understands dedication and has learned a lot. And I think that you already are that man. And yeah, the right people will come into your life, but you don't have to rush that. 24 is
Yeah,
you're
there's no
young.
rush. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still young.
Yeah. But
Still healthy.
you're learning, I think, some of the most important things in life. And what do I know? But from all the people that I've spoken to in my own experience, yeah, doing what you love, figuring out that life isn't just about the end result and what you can show on paper. It's about how you feel inside. It's about what's it like for you getting up every day, or when your head hits the pillow every day, when you look yourself in the mirror, the way other people look at you and what they get out of being around you. And it sounds like you're ticking those boxes and you're onto something good, man. So keep on going. And if you get the opportunity to get back in the ring sometimes and knock someone's block off without hurting them too much, then
I think
there's
I'm
nothing
just
wrong
gonna
with
be
doing
like
that
a
as well.
grappler now, eh? Take
Yeah,
them
yeah,
down.
that's right. Just choke them out and then lay them down gently.
Lift their legs up so they can wake up.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
No, you're a very interesting mix of a human being, man, but I think it's a good one. So just
I
keep
appreciate
on
that.
staying true to you and being a leader and having that view of masculinity and projecting that onto other young men. I think it's really good too. Saying to them, hey, it's not about being the biggest and the toughest and the scariest. In fact, that's often insecurity. It's about
Correct.
how can you protect other people and can you give other people opportunities, and do you have that calm confidence about yourself, and trying to instill that in people. I think that goes a really long way. So keep on doing that stuff, man.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you, man. It means a lot.
That's it for this episode. If you like what we're all about, support us by following Young Blood Men's Mental Health on Instagram and Young Blood Mental Health on TikTok. Every podcast episode is recorded in professional quality video and they're all up on our Young Blood Men's Mental Health YouTube channel. So please show some love and subscribe. You can find everything there is to know about the podcast at youngbloodmensmentalhealth.com. And most importantly, please share these stories with anyone in your life who needs to know they're not alone. We're all in this together. Catch you next time.